So I don't know if this happened to you yet, but you ever had one of those moments where you did something and you thought to yourself, oh, that was just like my dad. But it also happened to be something that you disliked about your father or disagree with? It's possible that these feelings and ways of being are things that have been passed on from generation to generation without you even knowing about it. And did you know that it's your duty to heal those wounds that you received from your father and from your legacy? My name's Jeddy Azuma. I'm the founder of the Rising Man movement, and I've been doing a lot of deep investigative work around men, their wounds, and ancestral healing over the past 10 years. And here's what I discovered. There is a way that you can go about healing these ancestral wounds that you've inherited from your father, from anyone in your ancestry. I'll talk more about that later. But first I want to talk about why this is even a thing. Where does this come from? How does this happen to us? Anybody who's a father out there knows that it's challenging to raise kids. You're still figuring out how you want to be in the world and who you are, and dealing with your own challenges and adversities while impressing upon your children, especially at a young age. So these wounds develop when we're kids because we're witnessing our parents do life, and before we know better, we think that's the only way we can do it. The only way that I can deal with money is to pretend like I don't have any. The only way I can deal with my problems is to pretend I don't have any problems and never talk about them. This is what we learn as children, and if we don't ever take another look and examine the things that we inherited from our parents, specifically from our fathers as men, then we can never make a new choice. We can never introduce a new behavior. You have to first build that awareness and understand, where is that wound coming from? Why am I being this way? Is it effective? Does it actually produce the result that I want for myself? And then when you find out that that's not the way you want to be, that's where you can inject the solution. So if you really want the solution, and you know I'm also talking about you, then take a moment and hit that like button right now. All right, so here's the solution. You've built the awareness. You identified the wounds that you've inherited from your father, from your ancestors, the things that have repeated in your family over generations. Now it's time to introduce something different. Let's say it's your family's story about money and abundance and wealth. You grew up in a family that pretended like they didn't have any money. You grew up in a family that was poor, going from paycheck to paycheck and barely getting by. How do you change that story so it doesn't follow you into your life, into your own belief systems? Well, you have to sit down with that. First you gotta do a deep investigation of, where does that belief come from? First question, where does it come from? Who did I see demonstrate that behavior throughout my life? Number two, is that an effective belief for how I want my life to be now? Really ask yourself that. Does that help me get to where I want to go if I look at money and whatever the problem is in my life this way? So step three is asking yourself, what is a different choice, a different belief, a different action I can take than I normally would, than my father did, than my ancestors did? So let's go back to the money example. Instead of always feeling like you never have enough, believing that you're never gonna have enough, you're not deserving of having money, a complete non-abundance mindset, what if you started telling yourself, I can do this. I am deserving of having money. I'm capable of generating income and wealth for myself. Starting to envision yourself bequeathing money to your children when you're gone, and taking that action step forward that is the opposite of what you saw your parents and your grandparents do all over the years. You gotta take meaningful action that contrasts the belief that you've had about yourself all this time. The belief that's been passed down from one generation to the other in order to believe something different. All right, listen, I know that a lot of this information can be difficult to digest, especially if it's nothing that you've ever thought about before. So take it easy, ease yourself into it. And I just want to emphasize that the Rising Man community is here to support you. All the men in our community are engaged with these kinds of conversations all the time. So if you feel like that's something you want more support with, then check out the links below for a way you can get involved more with our Rising Man community. I'll see you in there.